Kia ora tātou, nā mai, haere mai. I would like to acknowledge the original custodians of the Australian land and pay our respect to the elders, past, present and future, for their holy memories, traditions, culture and hopes of Indigenous Australia. I am speaking from the land of the Gadigal people. Good morning, everyone. My name is Cerise Devaux and I am Director of Profile and Relationships for the Trans-Tasman Business Circle. I am delighted to welcome you to today's virtual briefing, Risk-Free Growth, featuring Dr. Ilan Kogus. Ilan is a great game of business coach. He is also a dear friend of the circle and has been guiding and supporting us for many years. Ilan, thank you so much for being with us today and always. Today's session will be very practical and we encourage you to implement the learnings directly after the event. You can also submit questions through the Q&A feature should you have any. The discussion will be moderated by Tracy Jennings, the Circle's Director of Insights. You are in amazing hands and I hope you enjoy the session, learn, and of course grow. Over to you, team.
Thank you very much, Cerise. Thank you very much for introducing me, and thank you very much for the great team of the Circle. And we will learn later how you ran away from the lion. But I would like to start my presentation. I call it risk-free growth. We know that there's a major change taking place, and I'm not going to talk too much about the change. What I will share with you today is a new way of running a business. I learned a lot from the great game of business and from Jack Stack. So we now know that the environment is changing crazily. And we know that people are afraid. People are afraid. People are worried about their security. People are worried about risk. And there is a great need of speed, and there is a great need of technology accelerator everywhere we go. But at the same time, I think the leadership, culture, teamwork need to be changed drastically with the changing environment, because we cannot neglect people while we are so focusing on technology. People are looking for trust. People are looking for stability. People are looking for empathy, care, and optimism like never before. They want hope and vision, and of course, they want honesty and transparency. In the short session that I have with you today, I want to focus on something very practical. Today, you're going to learn a formula for success that you can implement immediately after this short session. You will learn how to increase sales and business success. You'll learn how to build a winning team, how to make people feel valued and safe in a workplace, and of course, a formula for success. And this is my goal. My goal is that you leave this session and you say, boy, did I learn something? I'm going to put it into action and I'm going to get results. Why do I call it risk-free? Almost everyone coming back from the corona crisis is worried about generating revenues. And most of the people I talk to say, this is really difficult because to generate more revenues, I need more staff. I need to invest money in a business, different machines, systems, process, setups. And I'm coming from a different school of thought. I say, with whatever you have, you can grow, dramatically grow, without any risk of investment, expansion, cost, and waste. And that is the purpose of this session. To make it clear, to make it memorable, I want to tell you a story. I learned the great game of business in 1995 in Springfield, Missouri. About a year later, I worked with a company in Kentucky. The owner, CEO of the company, a typical American, rugged individual, entrepreneur, his name was Ron. The company was a distribution of computers and computer parts. The size of the company in 1996 was $10 million in revenue a year. And when I met Ron, he said to me, you see him in the middle pulling his hair, because for 4 years, the company was stuck at the same revenue, 10 million, 10 million, 10 million, while the expenses, the cost, the waste dramatically increased, so he was losing money. So when I met him in 96, he said to me, look, we tried everything to fix the business. We sat with the executive team, so many meetings, and we tried this and we tried that, and we have not been successful in moving the business forward. And if we don't move the business forward, we need to grow by 10%, then I will have to shut the business down. There were 70 employees, more or less, at the business in 1996. So I said to him, Ron, let's have a look at a different way of running a business. Let me introduce you to the great game of business. And the great game of business, very briefly, is all about teaching everyone how the business works. And together we identify what the critical number that we want to fix is, because the company will win or will die if we don't make this critical number right. And then we need to follow the action and we need to keep score. And then if everyone is contributing to the success of the business, everyone should get rewarded, and not only the CEO, the executive team, or the sales team. And I said to him, Ron, we need to engage people in a different level. Open the books, share with them. Make them part of the business, make them part of the decision-making, let them be engaged, empowered, and take ownership. And let's change the language of the business. And why do we call it a game? Not only because it is fun. It is because in a game, you give the player the tools and you get out of the way and let them play. And normally when we play a game, we have a goal, what we want to achieve, we have rules of engagement, and we have a scoreboard, and of course there are rewards. So he said to me, what are you going to do? I said, why don't we ask the people how they can fix the problem of the business? He looked at me and he thought I'm crazy, maybe I am, and I looked at him and said, what have you got to lose? He said, fine. So he called the entire company to the warehouse and he shared with them the situation, the financial situation. And he said, we have to grow 10%. We have to grow by 1 million. And the team said to him, boss, give us a day. Tomorrow morning, we'll give you a solution. The next morning, we met in a warehouse and he said to the people, he said, what do you suggest? And I said, boss, we know how we're going to do it. We're going to grow the business in more than 1 million. He looked at me in disbelief. And then he said to them, how are you going to do it? And they said, very simple. Our goal is to grow the business 1 million. And we're going to do it by making one more call a day. What? They said, yes, 70 people in a business. If we make one more sales call, it was 1996, no e-commerce then. They said, if we make one extra call a day, it is 420 calls a week. And it is going to be, in 48 weeks, going to be 20,160 extra calls a year. And if the average purse per call is $60, then we're going to make 1.2 million in extra revenue. They did the calculations, I don't remember exactly, but they came up prepared with everything. He couldn't believe it because they came up with a solution and the strategy how to make it happen, like unbelievable, because the executive team couldn't make it. So I said to them, okay, if you're going to make it, what do you want? And they said, boss, all we want is 2 tickets per each to Las Vegas for a weekend. He looked at me and later on he said, immediately I was calculating, 140 people, let's say it's $500 each or $1,000 each, but it's going to cost me $140,000, but we're going to make $1 million. He said, fine, go ahead. So they started to work. By the end of the year, they made extra revenue of 1,209,000, and the celebration was unbelievable. But the funny thing is that what happened in the process, because they had one unifying goal, They helped each other and they did not compete with each other. That is normally in many companies. It just put them together. And they helped each other and they held each other accountable. They said, did you make an extra call? Did you make an extra call? And of course, they shared how they were successful. And the three most significant things that happened in terms of selling, because this was a distribution company, the team, all of them, they learned how to make more calls. They learned how to ask for a bigger purse per call. And of course, they learned how to convert. So conversion went through the roof. And of course, with that, the knowledge come the success. With the success come motivation for more success. So they went to Las Vegas and they came back very happy. By the way, two types of people came back from Las Vegas: those who lost money and those who lied. So they came back. Ron is happy. The company now is 11.2 million in turnover. He calls me and said, guess what? I said, what? I said, I want to play again. So the team came back to me and said, boss, we want to do it again. And this time we're going to grow the business in 1.5 million. He said, why not? Let's go and do it again. And what do you want? He said, we want to go back to Las Vegas. It's a great place. So they played it again and they grew the business extra 1.5 million. Come the third year and I said, boss, we want to play it again. And he said, okay, what are you going to get? He said, we're going to make the company a $15 million company. And what is the reward? And I said, we want to take the whole family to Disneyland. So by end of third year, they made it. And the business was so successful that a giant company bought them. What did we learn? We learned from this exercise that when you raise the bar at the bottom, when you ask people to perform higher, or they decide to perform higher, the top is also rises. The second thing that we learned, that people support what people have created, as I learned from Jack Stack, and of course this happens. The financial is where people get connected. And you create a system of small wins that bring joy and motivation. And the last thing is when people set their own targets, they usually hit them. So if we look at it and we superimpose what happened on Jim Collins' great book of Good to Great, we see that there are the three boxes at the bottom. It all starts with people. So when you have disciplined people that are engaged in a disciplined thought, and then the breakthrough happens when they engage in disciplined action. So only then you get a breakthrough, or if we look at it in more detail, this is the formula for success. And this is exactly what happened with Ron's company. The first thing on the left is, see, you gotta have the right leadership. I won't go in detail what level 5 leadership means, but you need to have the right leadership, and then the people. What people are you going to have on a team and how you are going to build a winning team. And then together with all of them, you engage them in confronting the brutal facts. The company was stuck at 10 million. And what is the hedgehog concept? What is the simple concept that will make the company more successful, which was one more call. And then without culture of discipline, doing it and honesty, doing it, and then using, of course, technology accelerator in order to move forward. And it is all applicable for today. And as you see, there's a circle, the Jim Collins call it a flywheel. The beginning may be slow and difficult, but then once it starts running, it is so heavy and so strong, it runs by itself. The same if you apply what I will suggest to you, which is the great game of business in a way, in a simple way for today, and you do it again and again, the results are going to be tremendous, and then it is going to create its own energy, and the success is going to be unstoppable. So if we look at what happened with Ron's company, and this is, of course, applicable to you, to any company, in terms of building a team, we all know the 5 dysfunctions of a team. Pat Lencioni, famous book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And the 5 dysfunctions are: number one, there is lack of trust. And in a company, people not only do not trust each other, they don't trust the owner or the management. And when there is no trust, then there is fear of conflict. When people are afraid to engage in conflict or express their opinions because they're going to get rebuked, berated, punished. So they just, yes, 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 while they're thinking differently. Then it leads to the third dysfunction of lack of commitment, because people are not really buying in the decisions and the goals that are being set. So they're not really committed, and each to his own. And of course, there is no accountability. Individuals are made accountable for the KPIs, otherwise they get fired. But they are not daring to talk to other people and ask them, did you make this extra call today? And of course, normally when there are the dysfunctions are in a team, everyone is looking after his own career, his own success, his own benefits, his own KPIs, and they don't care about the totality of the team. Now, while we played the game, and with the formula that we did with Ron's company, and this is for you to take home, this is it. When you open the books, which is the first principle of the great game of business, know and teach the rules, you open the book and teach people business, all of them, you build trust. And as we talked before, there is a great need of trust, and trust is number one thing that can make you successful. And now that people know and understand the financial and understand how the business is standing, understand what the problem is, and engaged in the process of looking for a solution, they set the goal and they set the measures. And by doing it, they buy in, they are committed. And then of course, when they decide the rules of engagement, like in the story about Ron's company, he said one more call every day. And they set the rules, and they hold each other accountable. But not only that, they put the information on a scoreboard for all to see if we're winning or losing, and every name was on the scoreboard. Because this way, accountability is just happening. And people know that they are accountable because it's shown, and they help each other, and the results are so important, because when the team wins, the individuals wins. And we communicate. I put communicate times 3. One of the most important roles of a leader is to communicate, and to communicate. The way we do it with a great game of business, we run the daily and the weekly huddles. So in the case of Ron's story, remember they had to make one extra call a day. So every day, for 5 minutes, in each department, in each part of the business, they stood up and they said, what did you do yesterday? How did it work, the extra call yesterday? What worked for you? How did you make it bigger purse? How did you convert? So they exchange information in 5 minutes. And then they said, this is my commitment for today. Every day, every day, every day. Remember the flywheel concept. Once a week, the whole company stood in front of a huge scoreboard that showed the forecast according to the target, what they needed to achieve. Because if they say 1 million a year, so say every month they needed something like 800,000 or 80,000 or whatever it was. And they looked at it and said, are we winning or are we not? And if not, what do we need to improve? So there was great communication all the time. And of course, they also, are we going to Las Vegas? Are we going to be rewarded? And of course, when it happened, they all got rewarded. So this is what is the most important thing for you to remember. Now, there is a story about 2 people walking in the jungle. And all in a sudden, they hear a roar and a huge lion is chasing them. So one man takes his boots off and he put running shoes on. Another man said to him, you're an idiot. You're not going to outrun the lion. And he replied, I'm not going to outrun the lion, I'm going to outrun you. Now the message here is the lion is the change. The lion is the new environment or the new normal or the new different, whatever we call it, with all the characteristics that you hear every day about the post-corona new normal. And the change is the lion. And there's the big threat there, but there's a big opportunity. An opportunity, I will talk about the twofold opportunity here. Number one, when I say you need to outrun your colleague or the other person, it was not a friend, it was another person, you need to outrun your competitors. You need to think now and say, how can we adapt and behave and grow risk-free in this new environment ahead and better than all our competitors? Hence, the new way of running a business, which I suggested to you. So to finish up this presentation, here is the most important page of my whole presentation. I suggest you print it and you take it with you. And you can go anywhere in your business. It doesn't have to be only sales. It can be anything. It can be increased morale. It can be warehouse turnover. It can be cutting waste of ink in printing company, whatever it may be. You take the people, it can be in a small department, in a big department, in a strategic unit, in a whole business, it can be anywhere. You need to open the book, share, make people feel that they are part of the process. And give them the tools and get out of the way. After you open the book, you set the goal and the measures and let them be part of it so there is a buy-in. Then set the rules of engagement, how you're going to make it happen. Then you display it on scoreboard everywhere, scoreboard, 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 and you stand in front of the scoreboard and you communicate. You check that the results are right. And if something needs to be improved, you improve. And of course, you share learning. People teach each other what's happening. So every meeting that you have with the team is for education, is for communication, and it is for accountability. And of course, when you meet and hit the goal, everybody should be rewarded. So again, this is a formula for a risk-free growth. You don't need to invest anything in a company. You don't need to hire more people, buy more machines, generally speaking. You can do with whatever you have. If you apply this simple process or formula, I can guarantee you, you can be successful in anything you decide to do on a personal level, team level, and company level. Thank you.
Thanks, Ilan, for that wonderful presentation and also taking the time to brief our circle members and guests. It's very informative. We have about 15-20 minutes now for everyone to submit their questions. So if you're out there, please use our Q&A feature. I can see some coming through already. But as they come in, and maybe just to kick us off, Ilan, I wanted to ask you a question surrounding working from home. Many of us have teams that are working from home. We've got leaders that are working from home, and most definitely in the future, the new norm will be, you know, a part of it, a hybrid, probably version of working from home and coming into the office. So how can we build, oh, I think I've got a bit of feedback, sorry. How can we build a cohesive team whilst working from home, Ilan?
Well, I faced this question quite a few times in the last weeks. I would say that there's a need for a new leadership style. That probably should be a topic by itself, and how to really build a cohesive team. So leadership, team, culture is a new thing that need to be learned. Because when companies used to have this office and people met in the office and they shared food and they had the meeting in the office, there was a culture that was in the office and there was a leadership style, and the team was a team because they were together working to achieve a common goal. Today, people work from home. So to begin with, the leadership style should change from command and control to coaching or participative, more participative. Because people are away. And I would say there are 3 C's that leaders need to follow in order to keep the team, build the team while people working from home. Number 1, communicate. So check in, talk to people every day. People want to be spoken to. So communicate with them. And remember what I said, they want empathy. They want to feel that they're cared and that you care for them. And of course, they want to have a vision, they want to have hope. So communicate, this is the first C. The second one is care, and really care. And the third one is coach. So if you communicate, you care, and you coach. And I know now, this morning we had a talk on Zoom, the 4 of us from, and it's amazing how we can be together using the technology, but it's not the technology that is making us together, it's how we talk to each other, how we communicate, how we trust each other, because working from home brings another issue, which is honesty. When people work from home, how do you know if they work from home? How do you check accountability that they really work? So I just want to finish this question. Communicate, care, and coach.
Yeah, I love that. Especially you talking about Zoom, and we're doing so many of these meetings face to face, but you know, a phone call also suffices in certain situations. And in fact, I've never valued a phone call so much in my life than during this time, as most of us out there will probably agree. We're going to some of the questions from the floor, and we're getting a lot of them from the audience. We have a lot of people in the briefing today who are coming from a wide range of industries and different organizations, and they each have their own challenges and opportunities, I guess. And so can the process that you suggest deal with other issues within the organization?
Look, the process can apply to anything. I'll give a couple of examples. I worked with a lumber company in Kentucky. There were 148 employees. I did a lot of work in Middle America in the 90s. And they had a lot of injuries because they used the heavy machinery in a very difficult terrain. It was a bushy land not far from the Ohio River, and they were cutting trees and so on and so forth, warehousing, a lot of injuries. So people were at home injured. The insurance premium was very high, so it was a major problem. So I introduced it to the 2 owners. They were Icelanders, Goodmanson. And we said, look, why don't we play a game? They said, what game do we play? This is a serious business. I said, why don't we set a goal of 1 million hours injury-free? Okay, and how are we going to do it? I said, the rules are everyone will be very pedantic, having the helmet and the protective gear and the eye cover and gloves and look after the equipment and hold each other accountable and so on and so forth. They came up with unbelievable ideas. And we had a huge scoreboard that we saw from 0 to 1 million hours injury-free. And every day they discussed it. And everywhere they learn how to use the heavy machinery, et cetera, et cetera. And the reward that they wanted, 2 things. They wanted $1,000 cash each if they achieve it. And they wanted the CEO to ride his Harley Davidson in a major warehouse wearing a female bikini. Now you can imagine how the CEO didn't like that. But it created such a buzz because we played a game. And I don't have to ask you to guess if they made it. Of course they made it. Because all of a sudden it was their lives, it was their business. So it was a case of injury. So whatever you decide, whatever you decide, another case, and I'll finish with that, I worked with a printing company and we did a diagnosis of waste. And we realized that $20 million company wasting $500,000 a year with spillage of ink. It was 25 years ago. And ink is very expensive. So we said, how are we going to solve this problem? So we got the team, The team set a goal and said, we're going to reduce it to 100,000 in waste. They set the rules, how they're going to the containers, how going to, etc., etc. There was a scoreboard. We communicated it. Of course, they made it and they got the reward. So it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't. As long as you identify a critical thing you want to improve in a business. It can be in a small department, it can be business-wide. Tracy.
Love that. So talking about, you just spoke about ink, which is probably a few years ago, but coming into the current environment and the current crisis that we've just been through and still going through, obviously, what's a new way of thinking that's different to before, and how does it impact on the great game of business? Is there any new things that you're seeing out there or hearing from clients?
You see, the interesting thing about the great game of business is moving away from command and control. Because the old way, let's take, for example, the story that I told about Ron. The old way of fixing the problem, the CEO and the CFO, maybe the COO, will sit together and say, we have a problem, what do you think we should do? And they said, this is what we're going to do. They called the people and said, we decided that this is what you are going to do, or else. Now, people will follow the orders because it's job, it's security, it's livelihood, but it was dictated from the top. And many times it was the wrong way, it was the wrong idea. And in many times, the decision at the top is not a better decision than at the bottom. Excuse me for saying bottom, at the floor. But if you bring it to the floor and you engage the wisdom, and people are very smart, you bring it to the people and say, hey, we have a problem. We have a problem. We are in it together. And the other thing that we teach people, again, the old paradigm is employees say, oh, the owner of the business is rich, he's making money, we work in the butt off and he takes the money, and this is not fair. But we are teaching them that the product is the company. And when the company is doing well, there's money for their benefits. They are safe, they are secure, they can grow, and the company can grow, and they can grow in the role. So if the company is doing well, they are doing well, so we are in it together. And the last thing with a great game, in comparison to command and control, everybody doesn't sleep at night thinking how to make the business better. It's not only the owner. So we in it, we're swimming together, or we're sinking together. That's a great game.
Yeah, I like that. We've got a few owners out there, so they'll be pleased to hear your comments on that one. And actually stemming off that, we've had a few questions surrounding, I guess, with the impact of mental health issues that's going on now, more so that we're seeing more now than with a lot more people out of the crisis, is that there are some in the team who potentially are struggling with this strategy, or maybe they're resistive to changes in the company and how everything's shifting. So how do we as leaders, take care of them, or how do we get them on board, or what do we do with people like that?
Well, I think the change is not only in the leadership. I think the change is also everywhere. People need to understand that the change is also involved in the way they behave, in the way they look at the business, they look at their lives, they look at their peers, they look at if they go back to the workplace. Some places must go back. Hospitals, production companies, airliners, and so on, warehouses, they have to go back to the workplace. In the service industry, many don't go back to the office. But I think if I was to run a business now, I would take the team and say, what changes all of us need to adhere to? What do you think? What do you think we should do in a different environment with a scare of being sick? What do you think we should do? How are we together and individually need to operate? So we set a brand new code of conduct, a brand new code of conduct. And I think the cornerstone or the cornerstones of this new code of conduct is trust. And violation of trust is No one can stay the company if they violate trust. It's number one. So trust and honesty. And of course, people need to share, learn, communicate, and pull together. So if we, from the top, if we employ what I suggested, the formula, open the book, set goal, and decide on rule, etc. And people have to say, yes, this is for me. If it's not for me, get out of the company and go work for the government.
Did you just say go work for the government?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think that's also, we've had a question here, and I think it ties into that. So I just want to make sure that we've answered it for them. But, you know, somebody's asked about balancing personalities in a team, and you've probably had to deal with that. We've got no secret that we have a lot of personalities in the Trans-Tasman Business Circle team, including my own, that you've probably had to mentor through all this. But are there any tips for anyone out there that has really vocal staff members, some of them with big personalities clashing with each other? Is there anything that you can tell us about that, or anything that we can work with there?
Look, I think we need to do a separate webinar on this topic, because we know that people are different. People are different. And although they share emotional needs of being appreciated and being rewarded and treated as they need and want to be treated, but some people are fast-paced and they're result-oriented, and some people are not. They are more considered in the pace, a little bit slower, and I want to consider the detail, and I want to consider how it affects other people, while people just, let's get results and do it. Some people are there for the team, for the fun, for the innovation, for the excitement. So we have basically 4 types of people. We all know the DISC and the Myers-Briggs and so on. So the trick is to not only understand and be able to read how people are, but to ask them and say, how would you like us to do it? How do you like us to work? Open up, ask questions. And when people say, accept it, because it is very important to give feedback, but it is way more important to accept feedback and to put it on board. So when I said before that, you know, you as a leader need to communicate, you need to care, you need to coach, everyone is a leader. Everyone should communicate in a way that the other person will understand. But talk. So Tracy, how would you like me to communicate with you? Okay, because I don't want to communicate with you the way I communicate with myself. It may not work. And vice versa. And how can we work better together? And if you give me feedback of things I don't do well, I should say thank you and not be insulted. So this is a new way of, you call it EQ, you know, is a new way of working together, because outside there is a lion that is out there to devour us. The change, the fear, the risk, the disease, and so on. So we need to be together and understand each other better.
Yeah, I think that's a great lesson for all of us to learn, and something to keep in the forefront as well, about communication with our teams and really listening to them. I like that. So a great question here. Did you ever work with a business that implemented this and failed?
No, I worked with businesses that started implementing it, stopped, and failed. And I'll tell you why. There are 3 main enemies of success. So enemy number 1, I'm not talking about, you know, a lack of trust and no honesty. Enemy number 1, there's no discipline. So people get excited. I had a company outside of Sydney, a small company. When the owner was all excited about the idea, and yes, you know, I can grow the business and be successful as somebody else and so on. They said, let's go and do it. So we got into it, and we set the goal, opened the book, set the goals and the rules and the scoreboard and had the communication, everything, and reward system. And then what happened is that they stopped. We're too busy.
Yeah.
We won't do it today. Well, yeah, they started to lose the discipline. The flywheel stopped. The other thing is they wanted immediate gratification. How come after 2 weeks we don't get results? They said, wait a minute, this is a hard slog. And the third one, they started to procrastinate on the important things. So the enemies of success, the three that I mentioned, are lack of discipline and expecting immediate results. And of course, postponing. One day I'll do it later, not now, not now, not now. And the other thing that happened there, that they broke the rules. When the company was doing well and people saw that they're going to get a major financial reward, the owner of the business took money out of the profit, and then all of a sudden said the profit went down, and they said there's not much profit for reward. So this is when it failed. But every company, and I mean it, every company that accepted what I suggest and did it with discipline and honesty and the teamwork, communicating, caring, and coaching, had tremendous results. There are quite a few great game practitioners on this call. And they know what I'm saying because they've all been very successful when they use the game properly. Tracy.
Great. And I know we're running out of time, but I want to get through some of these questions. And I love Michelle because Michelle is a go-getter. She's out there at the moment. And she's saying, how long will the road to success take? And can we speed it up? I love that. Can we?
You know, it reminds me of a story when I worked with rugby players in the Wallabies. I had a 17-year-old player came to me and said, I want to be a Wallaby. I said, when do you want to be a Wallaby? He said, I want to be a Wallaby. I said, that's great. You're 17 years old. Tell me when. He thought, when I'm 23 years old. I said, fine. Draw a line from now to when you're 23. And write, 23 years old, I'm a Wallaby. And now start telling me what you did. Go back. What you did. And then when you finish, go back to where you are today and show me what you're going to do. Because this is the action plan. So the question, how long? Look, I don't know. You can get immediate result immediately. But if, for example, you set a goal, we're going to grow the revenue of the business by 10%. When? 1 year. Or if you say, we want to decrease staff dissatisfaction. When? 3 months. Set the goal. You need to decide what you play, and does it make sense, the time spent? And then, of course, it depends on the goal, and then you set the rules, and then you display it, and then you check it, the results, and then you improve. I can lose 2 kilos in 1 week.
Yeah.
Right?
Ongoing process, though.
Yes. Yes.
So, Michelle, I think that's your answer. Maybe we'll get you in contact with Ilan after this. He can give you some further tips as well, and we'll do that for everyone.
It has to be done with reason. It's just people don't get it wrong. To play the game is not simple. It's hard. That's why it has not become a global epidemic.
Yep. Yeah, because we all want to be winners, Ilan. All of our businesses. So also from Michelle, yes, was a great one as well, which is just keeping your staff engaged, how to know if they're engaged or they're just doing their job. I think you kind of touched on this in the working from home section earlier on, but you know, how do we increase those motivation levels?
And patience is a virtue. Patience and discipline and learning, because the great game is a continuous improvement process, because you saw the flywheel. We set a goal, we go, we achieve it, we learn from it, we set another one. Ron's company, they did it once, they did it the second time. They learn how to convert better, they learn how to ask for more money, etc., etc. So it's a journey. It's a journey.
Beautiful. Well, that's something to finish us on, because we've run out of time and we have more questions, and I'm sorry I didn't get to them all, but it's been a really great session today, Ilan. I love it. Sharing with everyone that you're also my mentor, along with many of us at the Business Circle, and you've really helped us out on not only our professional journeys, but also our personal ones. So you've been with us for the long haul, and you've seen the circle through our different transformative stages, not only recently, but our progress throughout the years as well, and with Tanya and Johnny at the helm too. And we've always gotten more lessons out of you. The learning doesn't end and the process doesn't end. And I think everyone out there can appreciate that. And for everyone out there as well, we're also going to put you in touch with Ilan. We'll include his details after this. And he's very, generously decided that he will give you 2 weeks of complimentary advice, which is gold. We have Ilan involved in everything that we do, and it's just been a great opportunity for us to grow along the way. So thanks again, Ilan, and I'll actually hand over to you for a bit of the last word, maybe a last piece of advice before we close today.
Okay. Thank you, Tracy. And by the way, if you look at Jim Collins' chart and what you at the Circle done in the last few months, exactly that. Look at how you change the leadership, the team, and how you use the technology accelerator. How you moved from in-person into what we do now. This is just amazing. I want to thank everyone for participating. I hope I fulfilled my goal of leaving you with a formula for success. And I just want to finish up and say, take these 6 steps and just do it. And good luck.
Thank you.
Tracy.